What is going on, Movie Meals? Movie Meals. This is gonna be a nice little discussion video here. Batman is this weekend, and that review for Kyle and I will be out late. It'll be up on Sunday, probably afternoon, because Kyle hates his movie theater so much. We're looking at you, Regal. Regal, if you're watching, you need to figure out what's going on in Montana, because there's not a lot going on here. And I got a great theater, but Kyle wants to meet in a town in the middle. So me and some of the old pals from back in the day, literally some blasts from the past, are making appearances for Batman. I'm here for it. We're all going to be caravanning down to Missoula to see it. We're going to see it in the middle on a big IMAX on Saturday. I might be seeing it tomorrow though.
I understand.
So well,
you're gonna hand it over me, but
I'm not. We're even. You did that to me with Guardians of the Galaxy, so we're even.
That's true.
I've been waiting for this day. I've been waiting. You've been holding over Guardians for 15 years. That's how long that movie's been out, right?
Yeah.
So that's when it'll be out, but we wanted to do a throwback. We like every now and then we like to throw these little throwbacks out here. So I just watched The Dark Knight last night, watched Batman Begins 2 nights ago. And Kyle and I were talking the other day and he was like, I just watched Dark Knight 2. And we were talking about it. I was like, let's do a little throwback video. Just talk about The Dark Knight. So it's all spoilers. If you haven't seen The Dark Knight, you're living under a rock. Where have you been? So we're just gonna kind of get into it, spoiler heavy, and let's start here after we thank the Movie Meal patrons, Kimberly and Karen. Go get everything down in the description because of the patronage. Go get some merch, all that great stuff, linked in the description. And now let's talk about my boy right there, the Joker, Batman, Christopher Nolan. Everybody's involved. Michael Caine's there. So Kyle, just where do you want to begin here? How much do you love this movie? That's a good place to start. How much do you freaking love this movie? And how much have you already decided that there's no way the new one could be better than this one because this one's the original? Are we gonna pull an Iron Man here and we're just gonna say that there's nothing that can ever beat it? What do you think?
Okay. Well, first I'll start off by saying that I love this movie more and more every time I see it. I can't remember the last time I really saw it, but when rewatching it this week along with Batman Begins and The Dark Knight Rises, I'll be doing that soon. Was so happy that this movie still holds up as much as it does, because it could have pulled like a Batman 89, where the movie is still good. It's still a good time to watch, but it is like a dated movie in some aspects. But when it comes to The Dark Knight, it really is one of those movies that is just so special, not just because of how special it is for the genre, but just how special it is in cinema. Like, it just holds up that much in my opinion, and that's just because it's not only a superhero movie, but it's just a good story in general. And under Nolan's careful eye, like, he was really able to craft one of the more interesting superhero movies in my opinion, where he really took an understanding of the character of Batman and also the city of Gotham, and was able to explore, like, despite how brutal and harsh and kind of cruel the city is and how everyone could be, that there is always the possible chance for a glimmer of hope that the city can end up doing all right, whether it's with or without Batman. And especially in The Dark Knight, that's a theme throughout this trilogy pretty much, but it's especially like a theme for The Dark Knight because Batman, Bruce Wayne in here, he's trying to do the right thing by kind of passing on the torch of being the hero of Gotham over to someone who, is supposed to be the people of Gotham. And that's what he does with Harvey Dent. And but with the Joker coming in, he really kind of plays around with that and makes it so that way it doesn't seem like even the good of people in Gotham can be good the whole time. And he makes it turn for the worse with how he treats Harvey. So anyway, I just think those themes when it comes to the character into Gotham just holds so much, not just for specifically the character and the property, but just for a storytelling aspect as well. So between Nolan's careful eye, and especially because of Heath Ledger's amazing performance as the Joker, those themes really still hold up to me, and it just makes for one of the best movies I think that has ever been made. What about you?
I'm going to start off with what I don't like about this movie, because I want everybody to know that I actually hate these movies. I hate them quite a bit. No, I'm just kidding. I am going to start with some things I've been critical of. As years have gone on, some of the things, I think Nolan made a great trilogy. I think Batman Begins might be the best just Batman movie, where he is the hero. He's doing the hero things. It feels a little more Marvel-esque with being a bit darker, which is what I appreciate. The Dark Knight is a little bit more the villain's gonna outshine everybody. That it's just kind of how it goes, and we'll dive into that here and again in a minute. And then the Dark Knight Rises is kind of just like, it's fun. It's kind of back to that superhero movie. You're a little less invested, but it's still a solid entry. And he made a great trilogy. But what I'm critical of is the biggest thing for me has always been the fighting. The fighting, especially in Batman Begins, is not that good. It is very choppy editing to get rid of what could have been great choreography. He doesn't have a great, I think his suit looks great, but in terms of mobility in the actual story, he doesn't have it. So they have to create all these shots. And I mean, one of the fight scenes in Batman Begins is literally, I think I was trying to count them. I was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like we went through like 15 something shots within a very fast amount of time. And it does get a bit better in The Dark Knight. Especially like the room where the Joker first shows up and things like that. And Batman first gets to actually fight him. We get a little bit more of that, but there's just not a lot of him being this expert martial artist, which I appreciated. That then, Ben Affleck, I think, did a really good job doing that, but then it was a lot less of the cat and mouse game, which is something that people don't talk about as much with The Dark Knight, is that it's a great cat and mouse game. We talk about how great the performance is, but it's really, okay, the Joker did this. Here's our counter. Counter wasn't good enough. Joker's back being crazy. Here he went up again. He keeps going up in scale, and we just can't handle it. And I really appreciated that. I was thinking about it watching last night, how it's a really great cat and mouse game, and people I don't think say that as much. But that's one of the things I'm kind of critical of. Some of the stuff is a little dated. It's over 10 years old. Some of the tech, I was like, oh, wow. I was like, this is a bit older. I mean, some of the tech things are cool. I think the sonar thing is awesome. And actually I thought that looked pretty good still, but like some of the bullet entry things made me feel like it was older than it was. But outside of that, everything else I truly do love. I think the recasts that they have to do work. I think you still get solid performances out of everybody. I think Christian Bale is very confident, and it's something I really like. He's a confident Batman. He's been doing it for a year. That's the time difference between 1 and 2. That's another thing that I'm a little critical of, and it might just be because I'm spoiled about Marvel. But the continuity really doesn't make sense in the movies. When you really think about all three of them, there's quite a few tiny nitpick plot holes I was picking up on. Not that I was looking for them, but I just picked up on more. But overall, the movie's incredible. I think I love Christian Bale's Batman. I think he's one of the best. Did you find the voice goofy after so many years of people imitating it and everything? Does it come across like did it lose a little bit of the intensity when you first saw it for you at this point?
I can understand that. It doesn't really bother me. I think I just especially noticed it more in Batman Begins because I personally think the mask in that movie is not as good as in like
Yes,
the
I
Dark
agree.
Knight or the Dark Knight Rises. So as he's going like Rachel, blah, 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 but like the mask kind of makes it so that way his lips pucker out a bit too much, and I'm like, that's. I notice it more there, but otherwise, for me personally, I just am more wrapped up in the rest of the story that I'm just willing to forgive it. So not for me anyway, but I get it.
I did think I meant to text this to you last night. I forgot.
Mm-hmm.
There was a few moments in The Dark Knight, and this is just a nitpick, goofy thing. I don't even know if it's criticism of the movie, but Kyle will appreciate this more than anybody in the audience. And when he was running around, he's just, Rachel, and he kept being like, you should go. Yeah, I lost Rachel. I was like, this is just Arrow. He's just yelling about Laurel Lance, and I'm over it. I was getting flashbacks. It made me, I wanted to leave the room. I couldn't handle it anymore. Anyway, so here's my biggest thing about The Dark Knight. And it's the biggest thing everybody's talking about. And it's about our boy right here.
Of course.
Everything in the movie is very good. It is insane how much when other scenes that I really like are on, I don't care about them because I really want to see the Joker again. That is how good the performance is. When he goes to places and we're talking about, and there are scenes I really like. I really like when him and Fox have their little banter as Bruce Wayne and they're just chatting and they know without knowing and they make little references to it. I love that so much. And I would literally cut my leg off just to get another scene of the Joker. Like that is how good this performance is. This movie is that good because of him. This movie, everything else in it is a 9 out of 10, 8 out of 10, 4 out of 5. He makes this movie that iconic. I watched it with my girlfriend who had never seen it before, which was almost grounds
lucky.
To end. It was almost grounds to end that. Although you're right, there is people all tend to forget this, that there is, when somebody says I haven't seen a movie, Kyle and I are jealous. We're jealous. Of course, we have our witty banter of how have you not seen that? But in the end of the day, you're jealous because they get to experience that again for the first time, because you never will experience a movie as good as this the same way the first from now. I've seen The Dark Knight a dozen times. And now I'm sitting here being like, Harvey is a little kind of cuckoo at times. Like, is he being as smart as he could be? I'm starting to think that, even though I still love the performance, I still love the way he's utilized all those things. But that is how good Heath Ledger was. I mean, it's just how good he was in this role. And I liked Heath Ledger as an actor. I like other movies he's in. I think he's a talented guy. I obviously think he's got all the talent in the world, but he delivered a performance. But when the movie really started to get going, she sees plenty of scenes with the Joker. She watched plenty of the early, obviously she watched the whole movie, but she's watching those early scenes. But towards once that climax kind of hits and Jim is dead and the big plan kind of comes together, or we think he's dead, and all of a sudden it gets a lot more intense. I noticed she perked up. She's sitting up and she's a little more entranced in what's going on. And it's insane how good that performance is. It literally might be top 3 performance of all time. That's how good it is.
Yeah, and the performance also works with the cat and mouse aspect of this movie that you were mentioning. The Joker doesn't necessarily have a direct plan. He just knows that, or at least this is how I interpret it, like he just knows how he wants the city to crumble. He wants to prove that the people of Gotham aren't good, especially the White Knight being Harvey Dent. Like no matter what his plan is, that's just the goal for it. And I think Heath Ledger just does a really good job at it. It sounds weird, but he does a good job at embodying the chaos behind the Joker, not just as a comic book character portrayal, but just as a portrayal of a madman, of a psychopath. And
it's what led to his death. He talks about how he's in these hotel rooms and he couldn't sleep because he was having nightmares of the Joker. That's how deep into this character and the chaos you're talking about that he went. Like it's
interesting. It was interesting because I was hearing recently Coy was talking about Heath Ledger and what led to him passing, and from what Coy from, he was on Collider and he does some other stuff nowadays.
Coy Jean.
Thank you. Yes, I can't believe I spaced on his last name.
Great
really
critic.
Awesome. Yeah, he's a really awesome dude.
Great
for sure.
critic.
But he was saying that he was taking different sleeping pills prescribed by different doctors because he was traveling overseas, I guess, to take care of his daughter, but also be on a shoot like after he was done with Batman. And so I guess like the doctors weren't in contact with each other, so like him getting different doses, I guess, or caused him to pass away because of that. So I'm not completely sure if
I had heard a different story. That's interesting.
Yeah, so I would bet that Coy is right about this, although it is possible that like he couldn't sleep on top of that because of the Joker. That part I'm not sure, but there's just a lot of those rumors of like he was, addicted to the drugs and stuff. And I also thought it was what Coy was echoing.
I thought it was his wife that said that he had been having nightmares of the Joker and that the Joker gotten so ingrained in him that is what happened. And we don't know, and we're not trying to RIP to Heath. He should not have. I mean, it just went too soon.
It was unfortunate, no matter what.
No, it was horrible. Yeah. And we're just having a conversation. If you know any more, put that in down below in the comments, what you know, or if you know an article, because I'd love to read it. But his I mean, you see it in the other actors. When Michael Caine is supposed to say something when he shows up in the elevator, and he doesn't. He forgets his line because he had never seen him in the makeup. You know, it's just. It's so good. It's arguably, I'm watching it, and I'm over the years, you hear people say, you know, when Jared Leto became Joker, everybody was sitting there going, oh, who's the best Joker? And there was a big push for Mark Hamill, and I love Mark Hamill to death. And Mark Hamill does an incredible job being the Joker. And I'm sitting here watching this movie, and I go, I don't know if it is Mark Hamill. I don't know if he is the best. It's so hard. It's those two, but it's so hard to really come to a conclusion because now, I think he is a top 5, if not top 3 villain in terms of movie, cinema. You want to go TV too, in terms of that history. I think he's by far, his performance as Joker is that good. It is cemented where it's not just Joker, it's Heath Ledger's Joker. And to me, I mean, you talk about the iconic villains. It's Hannibal Lecter. Darth Vader is probably the number one choice there. I think you could show a picture to Darth Vader of anybody in the whole world and they know who he is. I think you would get most people with Joker, you know, but that's just how good it was. I legitimately didn't want his scenes to end. I didn't want them to end. If my phone buzzed and I'd pick it up and all of a sudden the Joker was on screen, it's down. Doesn't matter who I was texting. Mother, too bad. You got to wait. You know what I mean? Like the Joker's on screen. So what else do you want to say about the movie? I've been rambling. What else do you want to say?
I would agree with you to an extent that when it comes to the actions that are directed in these movies, they aren't completely the best, but that's especially also like as time has gone on, we've seen kind of action in superhero movies be done better and better, but it wasn't to where I was like really annoyed by the action sequences. It's just noticeable that like over time, I think Nolan as a director was just able to understand how to work with what he's got when it came to the suit that was being used in the movies, and then how to edit it better to where the action still was good. But his directing as a whole, you know, we've seen him for all of his other movies besides, you know, the Dark Knight trilogy, is that he just knows how to make everything so cinematic and just on a grander scale. And it just blows me away. Like, I don't have the biggest TV, the best sound system, but when it comes to a movie by Nolan, like yes, but
you got a pretty big TV guy. You got like a 65-inch TV or something, or a 60-inch.
Yeah, but everyone else now has 80-inch TVs.
It's just me. Alex sold his. It's just me. Our other friend Alex, who had an 80-inch TV, but it's just me left.
Yeah,
everybody else is looking on their phones.
I think Nolan is still able to just capture that cinematic feeling that should be had when it comes to.
I agree.
Movies, so
especially the chase scene in the cars, and you know where they broke the IMAX camera, where they're shooting bazookas underneath the city.
Yeah,
like all of that. I really appreciate that. I think it looks great. It's in terms of hand-to-hand combat, and it's a small nitpick. And I mean, even in The Dark Knight Rises, there's a famous scene where in the movie, a guy just falls over. Batman doesn't hit him. Nobody hits him. He falls over because the choreography was just not that good. They didn't have great fight choreography, and that's okay. You know, Nolan, you didn't make a perfect movie, but I still give you a 5 out of 5 because it's perfect to me. You know what I mean? Like in terms of the way you know, you make a movie, and if you're gonna have a fight scene, how you handle that and how you handle this. He lacks in some of those early spots, and that's okay. He's still an all-time great director. The movie is a 10 out of 10, 5 out of 5, whatever you want to score it on. 15 pizzas out of 15 pizzas. It's that good because of Heath Ledger. Some of the things for years, all you hear about is if Heath Ledger had not unfortunately passed away, was the Joker supposed to be in the sequel? Was he not? I know no one's answered that question. I think the answer was that the card was on the table, but we don't know. I always thought that's
I think
what he
wanted to. Yeah, I think he wanted to do something. I would imagine he wanted to do something similar to what he does with Scarecrow, like Scarecrow keeps popping up in little doses. Maybe that could have happened for Dark Knight Rises. Maybe.
My always thought was that he took it as it was something we would have definitely considered, but they weren't really working on the sequel yet. And because sequels weren't the same way, it was we just are making a third Batman movie. It wasn't we have to set up a universe, which is why some of that stuff it does get a bit funky, in terms of like where Batman was and thing. I mean, they in Dark Knight they talk about Batman like he's been around forever, and it's been a year. They have lines where they say it's been about a year. And then I was so confused because there were so many other lines about how Batman's been here forever and we have to end it. And he's destroyed crime in this city and all this stuff. And it makes it feel longer than it is. I had to look it up. It was like, how long is the time frame? And it's a year. So there's some of that. But again, he made an incredible trilogy. He made a great movie. And again, here's something I love to stress. In terms of, there's the famous quote of, the stage is for actors. That's where an actor is going to flourish more than anything else is the stage. Writers are going to flourish more than anywhere else, television. And directors are going to flourish more than anywhere else in movies. That has kind of changed a bit. I think for actors, it's more the same than ever before for the stage. But the director's job is to get the best performance out of his actors. Yes, there are directors like, Michael Bay, who can make a good movie and it's cinematic and it's epic and it looks great and it's beautiful and there's explosions and blah, blah, blah. But you don't also get Heath Ledger. You don't get the great Christian Bale performance. I think Maggie Gyllenhaal does a great job. I weirdly really love Morgan Freeman in The Dark Knight. I love him so much more than I do in Batman Begins.
He's a bright spot for sure.
Michael Caine, you don't get those if it isn't for Christopher Nolan. I mean, that's just how good he is. There's a reason that this movie alone propelled him to where he can do whatever he wants and anybody will go see it. And Warner Brothers will give him whatever budget he wants, that he can make a weird, fun, time heist mission movie. And it's confusing, but we figure it out and we have a good time with it. He can do that now. And he can go make a passion project like a Dunkirk. It's because of these movies. And he says that. He's like, well, you go make a couple Batman movies that make a lot of money for Warner Brothers, and then they let you do whatever you want. It's just true. But anyway, your turn. I'm rambling again.
What do you think about the City of Gotham? Well, one of the complaints I always hear is that Gotham doesn't feel like a character of its own, that it feels very basic. It looks like Chicago, where they filmed it in. I believe in a lot of those city scenes.
They did film in Chicago, right? Yeah.
But it doesn't feel like it's a character of its own as compared to it just looking like Chicago, and that's all there is to it. But for me, I like the City of Gotham, especially in Dark Knight, just because of the themes that the movie is representing, and not so much of the aesthetic of it. But for this upcoming Batman movie that we're having is definitely looking like the aesthetic is going to bring out Gotham as a character, which is awesome. But for me anyway, I was fine with how Gotham was utilized in all three of these movies because it works for its themes. But what about you?
This upcoming movie is the one that, because I know we've talked about a superhero movie. It is this upcoming Batman where people want the character to be its own, right? People have been saying that from the trailers. They think it looks like. So for me, I think of Spider-Man 2, Sam Raimi's, and how I think New York feels like New York because they'll actually help and they're throwing things, or even honestly, any of his movies. He makes New York feel like it is part of Spider-Man. And I think that really works. I think the aesthetic of Gotham actually looks pretty cool. As we were watching, my girlfriend just said a bunch of times, she asked me at one point, she was like, what is this city based on? And I said, they filmed, I think, in Chicago, but it's supposed to be New York. And not only New York, I think it's supposed to be New Jersey, it was always supposed to be, because I thought in the comics, once they started getting Superman, and maybe this is just because of Batman versus Superman, I think they said this there too, where it's supposed to be Metropolis is New York, where Gotham is Jersey, is how maybe it's just that movie, or maybe I thought it was a comic thing. I don't know. I'm blurring my memory here, but to me, Gotham does not feel like a city. I don't read a lot of Batman comics. I've read a handful. And I think in those comics, they do a better job of making Gotham feel more like a character a bit. And it doesn't bother me in this because the Joker's that good. I don't care. I don't want to see, I don't want that character in there. I don't want Gotham to be a character. Show me scenes of the Joker. Get out of here. Like, that's how I feel. They do a good job of the crime underworld. They do kind of just like, it does feel like a little bit that the bad parts of Gotham are all just underneath, because it's like, oh, we're going to the bad part of town, and they go under a ramp and now they're underneath the city. That I don't love. Because it usually it's a part of town. It's this part, and it's like, do we build on top of the slums? I don't know. Maybe I'm just rambling, but to me, it doesn't bother me. It's cool. It's fine. But yeah, you got thoughts on my thoughts here?
No. I just wanted to hear what you thought about it.
Ridiculous.
Because that's the criticism I always heard. So I was just curious.
Yeah, I mean, if they make it a city, I'm just excited that this is supposed to be a big detective noir. I think after watching The Dark Knight and the cat and mouse game again, that I don't think people talk about as much, because he does get a lot of flack for this Batman not being a fighter, and he's a little bit more of a detective, but he's not really. And then Ben Affleck really is not a crime detective in his movies, and that they wanted Robert Pattinson to be the detective. What is the line in the comics they say about him being a detective? There's some
the world's greatest detective.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, I think so.
Then I want to see
what I
it.
heard.
And that's what I'm excited for solving a mystery. That's what excites me more than anything about Gotham or anything, because he does kind of do it a bit in this, but it's just kind of like, oh, I'm a billionaire, I made it happen, you know. I'm excited that this one's going to lead into that, and we're getting a new iteration of Batman, and it's always fun to get a different version of him. And you know, I'm pumped. I've seen some critics say this is their favorite Batman movie of all time. It's on par with The Dark Knight, which tells me that this is an all-time great movie, depending on which critic you're listening to. I haven't heard anything that wasn't like too crazy. I've heard people, I haven't heard anybody hate it, but I am more hyped now that we got a chance to compete with the greatness that is The Dark Knight for this week. I'm excited.
Yeah.
For tomorrow.
Yeah. I mean, possibly. My hope right now is just, I want to be entertained. I hope it's very good.
No, I'm throwing popcorn at you. Anytime I think you're getting entertained, I'm coming at you. No entertainment for
you. No, I mean, especially after seeing The Dark Knight, I'm just at the point where I'm like, man, if it exceeds Dark Knight levels for me, like that would be crazy incredible. But
it's on par. You know, to me, that's a win.
Yeah, I mean, exactly.
That's a win.
I'm not walking into this movie thinking that. I'm just hoping to be entertained and hope that it's a good time. But hey, if it does, I think that'll be crazy. But I just hope the movie's good. I would like that.
You got anything else? Should we wrap this up?
I think just final thoughts. The movie is still incredible, as it has been perceived as for the last 10 plus years. Nolan's a great director. This cast is awesome, especially Heath Ledger, RIP. And we are just so fortunate to have gotten not just this movie, but this trilogy to have through our lifetimes and beyond. So it's awesome. I
will never get over in The Dark Knight Rises. A terrorist group shuts down a city. The world does nothing. Nothing.
That sounds about right.
Must have not been part of NATO.
They were like Gotham City. Oh God, no.
Remember that clown running around a couple years ago? All right, guys, what did you think? What do you think of The Dark Knight? What's your anticipation for The Batman? Comment down below. Thank you for watching. Go be a member of the patronage. Thank you to the Movie Meal patrons, all that good stuff. And as always, thank you for watching, Mom.
See you guys.